Hello, everyone. You survived through another week to make it back here to the Monday Rewind, and in fact, you lived through the Taylor Bowl, which I'm not sure too many people did. How'd you like it, Jacob? How'd you like the Taylor Swift Super Bowl?
I feel like a lot of the world's problems would have been solved if that stadium just collapsed last night, but it didn't. So I mean, we're here.
Yeah, right. And also, folks, if you don't know, we're going to be talking about the Godzilla news that came out today, or over the weekend, and also Lisa Frankenstein, the movie that can't make up its mind, and neither can we. So,
Nope.
yeah. Welcome aboard. So here we are. Jacob, when you were watching the Taylor Swift Super Bowl, how much Taylor Swift was on board with the Super Bowl? I just
It was Taylor Mania last night. I mean,
Taylor
first of all,
Mania.
yeah, I mean, first of all, you had, I went to a Super Bowl party for the second consecutive year. So that
Mm,
was an interesting experience. And of course, if you're there with mostly women, they're going to be there just to watch Taylor Swift. And I immediately regretted my decision, but I was too late to back out. So I just had to live with it. And yeah, every time Travis Kelsey looked at a football, there was Taylor Swift on the screen. As a matter of fact, somebody actually did the math. I believe she was on screen for like a good portion of like a couple of minutes, which if you calculate how much a Super Bowl ad costs. Like a 30-second Super Bowl ad now costs $7 million. So companies and corporations will pay $7 million just to have a 30-second ad during the Super Bowl. And
mm.
Taylor Swift essentially got more coverage than them for free. It was essentially the equivalent of like $17 million worth of
Yep.
coverage that she got FaceTime. Just them showing her face like for a couple of seconds each every play. Like that's a lot of time and that's a lot of money. So yeah, that was an experience in and of itself. But I mean, like the script writers of the NFL has been pretty much telling us that that was going to happen to September, and we were kind of like in denial, and then it just sort of fell into place, and then we just had to sit with and live with it. So
Yeah, it seemed I didn't tune in for the whole thing because I'm not a sports ball guy, but I kind of wanted to
yeah,
see like the sycophancy around Taylor Swift with this whole thing, and I was not let down at all whatsoever. This
well,
this was like, weird. I've never seen people respond to a bibbity bobbity blonde like this, and I lived through Britney. Okay,
yeah.
this is crazy.
There's something going on here where with Taylor Swift, like I said, Taylor Swift has engulfed like several sectors of media in a very brief period of time to a point where she's pretty much a cult. Like this, like unironically, like there are people like cult like worship of Taylor Swift. This is why we're having this discussion right now about whether Taylor Swift should endorse Joe Biden for the president in the 2024 election, because there's a large number of people who believe that she could single-handedly sway the presidential election. Now, we laugh at that idea. We laugh at this notion that, oh, people are just going to vote for Joe Biden because Taylor Swift said so. I mean, because have you seen Taylor Swift's fans? People may actually vote for the president of the United States based on the opinion of Taylor Swift.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And again, like we have to remember too that women are now 51% of the US population. That's biological women. That's not
Hmm.
because I said so women. And yeah.
And
So it
a lot of the unmarried ones, which is basically Taylor Swift's biggest fan base, just so happens to vote Democrat. It's weird how the numbers fall out like that.
member of the channel RJ McReady says if she sells fruit punch, don't drink it. That's a
Yeah.
Jim Jones reference. I like that.
But by the way, I know we'll talk about this in and out here, but did you see the Pfizer commercial for the Super Bowl last night? So
No.
Pfizer
Oh,
bought
that
in.
thing. Yes, I did.
It was like a minute long ad, so they spent a lot of money on this, but it was a minute long ad where they had like Queen Don't Stop Me Now playing in the background, and there was like, oh, Pfizer, here's all of the leaders of Pfizer, like basically revealing to you who the cabal of this organization is. And it was like, oh, isn't this great? They're playing Queen and I'm dancing, and it's making everyone forget about all the young people who are suddenly dying of heart attacks and all the turbo cancers that have been diagnosed in the last year and a half. Just don't pay attention to any of that. Just keep dancing the Queen, ladies and gentlemen. Like, it was the most egregious, borderline, I don't even say borderline evil, just kind of straight up evil thing that I've seen in quite some time here.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, like it was one of those. You remember the White House Christmas special Christmas thing where all these people were running in and out and being like weird freaks with bunny masks and stuff. Remember
Hmm.
that? That
Yeah.
is what how this ad really felt like. It felt like another dimension trying to just ignore what we
It
all
was
know out loud. It's nuts.
it was the equivalent of like the mob doing like a TikTok dance as like two people are trying to clean up the blood from the background. It's like, pay attention to the dance. Don't look at what's going on behind over there. It's not important.
Yep, just absolutely out of this world, and,
Mhm.
like, "Remember that time we defeated the Nazis? Remember that
Mhm.
time?" Yeah.
Remember that time that we gave you medicine because you slept with a whore, you caught something, but we cured it. So don't forget about all the good that Pfizer has done for the world.
Dizwiz sends us a super chat for this many amount of monies, and they say, "Sick and tired of that feminist B. I'ma skip this." Yeah, a lot of people skipped out on the Super Bowl because of Taylor Swift. I'm not gonna lie. The people I met at the grocery store and asked about this, they were saying, "No, I'll catch the replay so I can skip through every time they show her."
Yeah. Like so this is a big topic of debate for football fans all year long. And obviously, at the very beginning of the year, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelsey began dating. It was around the same time that Travis Kelsey became a mascot for Pfizer at the same time. Weird how that happened. But,
Yep.
and then every single game, every single primetime game, every single weekly game came out. And it was like, oh, here's Taylor Swift. And she's at the football stadium watching her boyfriend play football. And every 5 minutes, they would turn to Taylor Swift. It's like, oh, Travis Kelsey caught a pass. Let's see what Taylor Swift is reacting to this. And just over and over again. And people who just watch football for football is like, look, I don't care about Taylor Swift. I don't listen to her music. She's not my target demographic. Can we just go focus on the game? And now all of a sudden you have all these pop stars who have no connection to football whatsoever. Like Adele came out today. It's like, how dare you football fans not appreciate Taylor Swift? Don't you understand that you're watching greatness right now? And it's like, who the hell are you? It's like, I mean, it's
When anybody cared what Adele had to say about anything, I don't.
yeah. Remember when Adele was relevant? I remember 2013.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, yeah, this is the hold that Taylor Swift has had over. I can't even say the entire country, like the world. It's like I think about it too. Like, when was the last musician that had like this cult-like following with the whole world? And the only name I can think of is Michael Jackson was probably the last one who had
Yeah,
just like a complete cult-like following over everyone. Didn't matter what country that he was, like everyone was like literally treated Michael Jackson like a god. And this is probably the last person I can think of that equates to what we're seeing now with Taylor Swift today.
yeah, exactly. And again, like she's even bigger than that, right? Like
Hmm.
Michael wasn't deciding elections, you
Yeah.
know. This and you got to remember too, Taylor Swift is 34 years old pretending to be 16 still, okay?
Yeah.
All right. This lady is like soccer mom wino territory, okay?
Even conservatives like a few weeks ago were defending Taylor Swift when people were clearly having like enough of like the Taylor coverage, and like Matt Walsh and like all of these other like Daily Wire types just came out of the woodwork talking about, guys, we need to not go after Taylor Swift because no, this is bad optics and blah blah blah. It's like, really, like these guys are now capable for, like, Jason Whitlock is now telling people that we're going too hard on Taylor Swift. Is this where we're at now? It's like, what, like I said, what hold does this woman have all over the world right now? But then again, maybe she's a member of, let's say, a high priest class. That's not exactly the priest class of any like biblical church that we can talk about here on the YouTubes. But no, just say it starts with an I and ends with an I.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And
Yeah,
again, I mean, like, what's that?
no, I was just gonna put Doba Fett said that Madonna's the last one I can think of. Honestly, Madonna, there was no part of Madonna's career, even at her absolute height, where she had the cult-like following that Taylor Swift has now. Like, Madonna was absolutely popular, and she was a big star once upon a time in the 80s and the 90s, but she's never had the hold that Taylor Swift has over the world right now that she possesses. So,
Right. And RJ McReady, member of the channel, says after seeing Daily Wire respond to quote no politics in movies with lady ballers, I can't take them seriously.
yeah,
100%, man.
that's one of the few movies that I skipped last year, and from what I heard about it, I wasn't missing much. I mean,
Jay Diary talks about how Veritas Eterna says, check out Jay Dyer. He talks about how she's a tool for social engineering and culture creation. Yeah, I don't doubt it. They did that with Elvis. There was this conspiracy theory that Elvis was part of the CIA plot to change the voting, change people's opinions of Christianity.
Mhm.
So
Well, I mean, the famously, it was at the White House quite a few times during his run, so no, it may not have been that much of a conspiracy theory. So,
well,
but to
hey,
say, if he wasn't working for him, he did visit them a few times. So let's put that.
Hey, Dante, you and RJ McReady definitely took the high road when it came to sports ball last night. So Seinfeld and
Mhm.
Doom were definitely the winning play. You know,
Yeah,
um,
and my thing is like, I kind of am a sports ball fan, even though I'm just completely detached from what the professional sports has become now. It's like I used to be a big NFL fan. Now I can't stand what the NFL has become. I feel the same way about the NBA as well. The only ones that I still kind of tolerate is like baseball and hockey, but I mean, there's still issues with those leagues, like as it is now too. So I mean, well, what we're seeing in our culture with like movies and comics and television, or whatever your realm is, it's seeped into sports too. Like sports has not been unscathed from this virus like at all. It's like
yeah,
all the subversion that's going on in our culture right now. It's trickled down to sports too. I mean, there was only a couple of years ago where the Major League Baseball moved the All Star game out of Atlanta because Joe Biden and Stacey Abrams complained about a voter ID law that got passed in Georgia, and they moved the All Star game to Denver, a more Democrat friendly state. So yeah, I mean, this is what it's come down to now. I mean, like I said, 20 years ago, I was the type of person who would watch ESPN 24 hours a day because it's like I couldn't get enough of sports news and watching games, and not now it's like I'm just completely detached to it. So,
yep. Well, we got some good news though, Jacob. We got
mhm.
some good news. Godzilla Minus One did another like total breakdance style down. Just absolutely, you got served, Hollywood.
Hmm. Yeah, this is basically like watching Deion Sanders high step from the 50-yard line, if you guys are old enough to get that reference. But yeah, so it's amazing to think about here the concept of what we're going to talk about. Godzilla Minus One came out about a couple of months ago now. It's been about 2 months since this film's been out. And it's been a big hit here in the United States, big hit worldwide. I believe it's made $100 million worldwide, if not already. But I mean, that's a huge number considering the fact that this was a movie that was only done with a budget of what $15 million, we believed at the time, and then the director came out not too long ago. Yeah, so $104 million worldwide, and it's actually done very well here in the United States too. So it's a pretty big hit considering its budget. And the director came out not too long ago. It says, yeah, 15 million. I wish we had $15 million, which means that he actually made it for even less than that one did. So you're talking about here a guy who made one of the absolute best looking movies, like visually looking movies of the entire year on a micro budget compared to what you see out of DC, Warner Brothers, Marvel, that spends 250 to 300 million dollars before reshoots to release the trash that they give us here. And it's like, how did you guys make Godzilla look that well for like $12 million? So people were asking, it's like, how is it even possibly that he did that? Then he went on to do an interview this week talking about essentially how they didn't have to like cut corners in the way that you think that they would have to. They didn't have to like cut corners and like, oh, well, they must have been doing everything on the cheap and they must have only had like a handful of people. He's sitting here talking about, yeah, we know part of our catering, we had like sushi chefs come in and we didn't have to skip out on a lot of issues here. So let me get back to the point that he says here. Yeah, so he's talking to Vulture, and basically what he says that his team underlined that working conditions were pretty comfortable despite the small budget, meaning that they didn't have to sacrifice comfort in order to do quality, which a lot of people complain about with like Japanese animation or Chinese animation. That, oh, they're working their people to death over there. Apparently, that's not what happened here. He said that one thing that I will say is that we had our company had a pretty nice renovation and overhaul of our office floor because once we knew that we were going to work on the Godzilla project, we knew that we were going to be spending significant hours together, so we made it more comfortable and cozy. We spent some budget building out a kitchen. He goes on to say that we have a designated sushi chef in the kitchen. We try to avoid long hours, but if you do, it's a very welcoming environment, which spends a few extra hours. Hopefully, in due time, the VFX budget increases to allow for more improvement. So keep in mind, this is what this man was able to do for like $12 million. For keep that in reference here, Home Alone, the movie Home Alone in 1990 was shot at the time for a budget of $14.7 million. They made a Godzilla movie for less than what it cost to make Home Alone
In the 90s.
in the 90s, right? But this also just goes to kind of expose the mindset of smaller studios, smaller productions that don't have, they're not part of like mega corporations. So it's not like, oh, if the movie thing flops, we have all the little theme parks, or we have, this section of cable that we can fall back on. We don't have to worry about it. Like, put it this way, Home Alone in 1990, I believe, was originally a Warner Brothers movie back in that day. And Warner Brothers actually gave up on the film because they had a hard cap budget of like $14 million and ended up going like $1.7 million over that budget. Warner Brothers shut that film down because they didn't want to spend any more money. Can you imagine in modern times a film being shut down because it went $1.7 million over its budget?
Right.
A budget that was only $13 million to begin with. So here you have, like I said, kind of that old school mindset. It's like, hey, look, we're just doing what we can with the group that we got. And because they don't have a bunch of big name actors, like you're not have like The Rock is on here. So he's not like, oh, we have to pay The Rock $30 million to be in our movie. And then we have to spend an additional $10 million on all of his staff because, he needs to have his own publicists and stylists and all of his friends, this entourage needs to be on stage and whatnot. It's like, no, they just got a small group of people together, focus on making the best movie that they possibly can. They all understood the assignment. They all did the assignment very, very well here. And as we got here, one of the most positive films of the entire year. I believe it was in my top 10 best movies of 2023. It is a movie that a lot of people really, really enjoy. And people are just sitting here asking the question. It's like, how come we can't get this anymore out of modern Hollywood? And I think the big problem with that is that Hollywood in a lot of ways has become too big. And if we're being completely honest with ourselves, they don't care about the vision of creating art that you guys are going to enjoy anymore. It's like you don't have people who will sit down and be like, let's put out the best script and make like the best movie, like make everything work on like a fundamental level so that we can make something that has heart to it and that people are generally going to enjoy. Now we're just in the age of, Kevin Feige says that we're gonna have an X-Men movie in 2027, so we might as well get this ball rolling here. How much we need? $300 million. Yeah, we'll probably go over that one by about 50 million. And here we go. Yeah, the Marvels cost 20 times as much as this movie. The Marvels, I believe, was 275. And I want to say that was before or after reshoots, because they did have some reshoots attached to that as well. And like I said, 275 for a movie that didn't barely make 200 million when it was all said and done. So it didn't even make back its production budget.
It was 274, $275 million to make Brie Larson look like an actor.
Mm-hmm.
And then it only grossed altogether $200 million. That's it. That is it.
So once again, he's saying, and then Yamasaki here says one more time that, if there's a solid vision throughout the, the process of making a single film, I think there's a way to cut down on the costs. But yeah, there's a trial and error cost, bouncing off ideas of one another, which is necessary to a certain extent. But if you clearly communicate that vision, then maybe there's not no need for a lot of experimenting, which eats up a lot of cost and time. So people were asking him, it was like, well, do you have any advice for like modern Hollywood, filmmakers who maybe are trying to do something similar to what you guys are doing? And he's basically just saying here, it's like, I don't know, maybe just figure out what you guys are doing before you start shooting, and so you won't have to waste so much money. It's like maybe have a plan together before you get to it, instead of we'll fix that in post, which has kind of been Marvel's MO here over the last few years. Like, just stand on the blue screen and then we'll do everything afterward with our computer visuals, and then everyone goes home.
And that, again, like, you're gonna probably go see that Godzilla versus Underworld, whatever the heck is coming out now, the monstrosity that they're putting out next. And it's just a CGI, from every direction. I'm sorry, I was gonna use another word, but I'm unbounding into comics. I can't use that. So, it's just going to be like this, like, hailstorm of CGI coming at your face. Whereas we saw with the Godzilla Minus One, they mixed the miniature sets, they mixed the live action footage, they mixed all that together in one scene very fluidly. You're going to see like whole CGI environment. It's just going to be a quick time cut scene for half that movie. That's the problem.
Man, this is, like I said, I don't know if it's incompetency with Hollywood, if maybe it's a little bit of money laundering going on with some of these corporations where they're just shuffling the dots together to make it seem like that, oh yeah, we totally spent that money on a movie. And it's like, maybe it's a combination of the two, but what films like Godzilla Minus One is exposing here is that there's a clear problem both creatively and financially with Hollywood that I think if anyone wanted to actually dig into why this is actually happening and start asking some uncomfortable questions, those people might find themselves with a suicide note in their house that they did not write. That's all I'm going to say there. But it just feels like this film on so many levels is just dunking on absolutely everything that Hollywood is doing right now, because it's basically showing them what they're doing wrong and giving them. I mean, look, if Japan or Korea, I know they don't have like the structure to compete with Hollywood, but if they just start releasing more movies from overseas over in the East that are smashing what Hollywood has been doing, and I'm a big fan of South Korean movies. I think a lot of those films are a lot better than what you're seeing in modern Hollywood at the moment. But people are going to start turning away from the crap that they're being force fed. I mean, if the only thing that we have to look forward to is Furiosa and Deadpool 3 and Bad Boys 4, and that's the only thing that's supposed to motivate us to go spend $20 at a movie theater to go watch a terrible movie, then they're going to be in a world of hurt.
Well, and again, I mean, like as we see, like with this like monstrosity right here. I mean, I don't have any love for the 2014 legendary Godzilla. I just don't. It's
I'm
so much
assuming they're going to tell
CGI.
us why Godzilla's pink all of a sudden, right? Like this isn't like non-binary Godzilla, is it?
No,
Did they
no,
turn?
this
Did it?
Godzilla took a nap in the Arctic, and apparently it made his Godzilla in this pink. Like, that's what the I don't know. Anyway, but this is again. It's just going to be one giant quick time event for most of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the Legendary Pictures Godzilla because it's all CGI. One
Yep.
of the things that I really appreciate about the Godzilla movies, and yeah, a lot of people get uppity about this, but the rubber suits and the guy stomping around a mini set, I don't know. I just enjoy it a lot better than a PS4 QuickTime event where I've got to press X so Godzilla can beat the bad guy before the credits roll. There's no I don't feel anything for it. It's just woohoo. When do I get to
Well,
fight the bad guy with the PlayStation controller?
well, to point this out here too, it's like to be fair, like the Godzilla Minus One was mostly CGI too, but they made it look better than what the Americans did. Like I'm trying to think of like what was the last Godzilla versus Kong movie. I know it was like a couple of years ago. Well, when that film came out, but didn't they have like a crazy budget of like 200 something $1 million? Godzilla versus Kong 2021. Yeah, that budget was about $200 million. So
Yeah.
the one before the Japanese one was 200 million. You have to assume that for this one they probably either matched that or went slightly over it. So it's probably somewhere between 200 to 250 million dollars, and this is the best that they can do. Pink Godzilla running kind of like Batman 66 style into the camera with King Kong as they're like running towards their threat. It's like literally that shot at the very end of that trailer where like Godzilla comes out of the ground and they're both running at full speed like this. I was like, did no one watch this and think to themselves, looks awful? Like we can't show this.
Right. Did nobody watch this and say, "This looks goofy as hell"?
Mm-hmm.
Why is Godzilla running to begin with? Like, even in the rubber suit, him doing the derp, 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 it's always dumb. Never do that. Godzilla walks. The
Yeah.
King of the Monsters is in a hurry to get to nowhere. Understand? The King of the Monsters is in a hurry to get to nowhere. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it doesn't inspire. This is based off of pre-meltdown Godzilla before he went on to die fighting Destroya. There was a Heisei era, I believe, Godzilla that had some type of a pink charge to him. But I do believe that was Godzilla 2000, maybe, that had the
Mm-hmm.
pink charge rather than the blue charge to him. And it wasn't pink per se, is that it was meant to be so hot that it was beyond like a red beam. It was headed down from blue, though, so it wasn't so hot. And I think that's what the point of that was. But this, again, Godzilla's apparently been like sleeping in the Arctic since the fight with Ghidorah is what the lore to this is. But other than that, they haven't said why Godzilla's pink.
I swear, if there's one reference to Godzilla pronouns, I'm gonna pick up my Reese's Pieces and then literally walk out of the theater and drive away. Like I will not stay for that. If it happens 5 minutes into the movie, I'm gone. Like that's how serious I am. Like about that. This is it's embarrassing. Like you have to look at it from a historical perspective here. It's like America used to be the gold standard for films. Like, we inspired the rest of the world to match our level of production. Like, honestly, all these countries like China and South Korea, Japan, and like all the European countries, like they're all trying to follow us. Like, we were the model that everyone else followed. And now everyone else is doing better content than us. Like, we're just putting out other like garbage now.
We're putting
And
out
it's like,
French films. That's really what we're doing. We're putting out
yeah,
French films. They don't make any sense. They cost a lot, and nobody gets it at the end.
yeah. It's just slightly less pedophilia for now, but that's only because Roman Polanski's over there. But I mean, that's to catch up with time. But still, it's like, what are we doing? Like, don't you guys have? Oh, I mean, yeah, you guys clearly have pride, so that's probably the wrong question to ask. But it's like, don't you guys have any shame?
Wrong pride.
Yeah, the wrong pride.
Well, Henry Throne says this. I would like to see a current Godzilla movie with models and suits today in today's movie technology. Well, Godzilla Minus One uses a lot of that. There is miniature technology. There are a lot of the scenes that they shot from the upside for Godzilla were done with miniatures and green screen inserts and stuff like that. So it was a lot of these sets that they had to construct for this. I can't wait for like the behind the scenes stuff to come out with DVD and whatnot. Or if you ever get a DVD, excuse me, if you ever get a DVD of this, I hope that the behind the scenes footage actually explains just how much of like the ye olde Godzilla tech went into this. That's what cut the budget down so much, by the way. Is that if you don't have to pay $80 million to your VFX team to create the entire movie for you,
Yeah.
what do you know? You save a lot of money. Weird.
Yeah, it's like, stop fixing. So here's the thing: stop making the entire movie in post production. Like, stop just having actors hang on wires on blue screen and be like, "Oh, we'll get our slave house over here to make. We'll give them they'll create all the enemies and they'll play all the ships and everything like that. And like, they'll do that in post. So, or we're paying them $300 million so to make our movie look good, and then the movie looks like a big buying turd ball because it's like, oh, our VX team is sick of us. They all hate us and want us to die because we make them overworked and they missed their daughter's birthday and Christmas and all this time because they were working on She-Hulk. So now they don't want nothing to do with it.
There was a guy, a whistleblower that came out and he said they spent 80 hours in 1 week animating her butt wobble. 80 hours in a week making her twerk.
Mm-hmm. So somebody missed their kid's birthday because of that. Like somebody missed their wife's anniversary because it's like, no, I can't, honey. I'm still here at the office trying to make She-Hulk twerk properly. Sorry.
Yeah. And we had to put a butt on Tatiana McGrath because she doesn't have a butt to begin with.
Dude, it's getting so bad. Like, seriously, like Disney or like Warner Brothers, one of these two studios are going to start installing suicide nets out of their windows pretty soon. It's like, it's going to come full circle.
Wait. Well, speaking of sewer slide, have you heard about Fear and Loathing on Sesame Street?
Oh, no, I haven't.
So Will Wheaton lost his collective marbles over Larry David. Like,
recently?
Putting it, it was like last week. No, it was like last week. It was like last week. So, due to some clearly unresolved personal issues, Larry David's recent attacking of Elmo on live television has drawn an explosive yet legitimately angry reaction from Star Trek actor Will Wheaton. So I'll just show you the clip here. It's gone around. So we'll just slap up that fancy fair use symbol right there.
Mm-hmm.
This is very quick.
Go over to Alfred, check the weather.
Not yet.
Not yet. Here's Al Roker, the man that pooped himself in the Obama White House. Yep. That's old Al Roker.
Wait.
Not yet. Here comes Larry David, and he's attacking Elmo. Oh no! On live television. And he's God. Got him right in the face. Look at that. Oh, it's such a vicious attack. So vicious, right? Awful thing.
Just a quick little sidebar here. Imagine getting paid millions of dollars to have them to sit there and pretend like this is funny. Like, imagine.
Well, hold on. That's the kicker.
My gosh, you love Elmo, don't you?
Oh my
you okay?
God.
Mr. Larry, Elmo liked you before.
Ask permission before you touch people, Larry.
Let's get back on the couch. Let's talk about how you're feeling.
Okay, so you guys, you don't know this, right? You don't know this, but Larry David did not. This was not scripted. This was not. Nobody had permission to do anything. Larry was sitting across the studio, listening to Elmo go on about mental health. Okay, an effing puppet going on about mental health. You have Elmo would like everyone to know that if you're compartmentalizing your trauma, you can get help at 1-800. And Larry just had it. He said, I couldn't take the high-pitched yapping voice, so I wanted to put an end to it. And that's what he did. And he just went right over there and he just slammed his hand right down on top of the puppet so the puppeteer couldn't talk anymore, couldn't make the voice move anymore. And he's just like, he told the interview afterwards, he said, if I could have just ripped the puppet off the guy's hand and taken it back with me to stop the whole thing. And I said to myself, every man in America who's had to sit through an Elmo episode at least once, thanks you, Larry David.
Every man has his breaking point.
Well, speaking of breaking points, Will Wheaton did not handle this very well. Let
me pause just to ask this question. What does this situation have to do with Will Wheaton in any way, shape, or form?
Well, you might be wondering that. And Will Wheaton decided to involve himself in this situation with his very lengthy Facebook post that we'll read right now. It says, so I heard about Larry David assaulting Elmo on live television, but didn't watch until now because I knew it would upset me.
Pause. Just pause. Whenever you're about to start a diatribe and that's your first sentence, whatever you're about to say is going to be like the most bitch-made thing that I've ever heard in my entire life. It's like, guys, I had to let you guys know before I start talking that I couldn't make myself watch this YouTube video because I knew I was just going to be so emotionally distraught by the violence that I saw from this 80-year-old Jewish comedian. Come on, really?
Right. And he's 50. By the way, Will Wheaton is 51 years old, by the way.
Yeah.
This is like AARP ready Will Wheaton, who is about to have this very long and incredibly emotional breakdown on Facebook.
He's at the age where he's about to have like his 11th consecutive like prostate cancer check. So this isn't like a child we're talking about here.
Right. Not little old Will Wheaton, Wesley Crusher. Sorry, I'm trying to get some sad piano music uploaded here, but it's taking a second. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just taking a second because StreamYard's a great place for stuff. But anyway, so he says, holy shit, it's even worse than I thought. What the F is wrong with that guy? Elmo is like the best friend of multiple generations of children. In the Sesame Street universe, there's a Sesame Street universe, by the way.
Just a quick little time out there. Wasn't it proven that the last puppeteer who played Elmo like molested kids or something like that? Or
I don't know. I did not. I believe it or not, I am not a Sesame Street aficionado.
I'm pretty sure that was like
old. I stopped tuning in.
I'm pretty sure there was like a major scandal regarding the last guy who played Elmo, and I wouldn't exactly use that as your lead on to your diatribe there. So that's strike two, Will Wheaton.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just see I didn't draw X here. We're gonna get to your comment in a little bit. That's a very valid comment. So if you got something you want to do to come back in there, give us about 10 minutes to get through Will Wheaton's thing. It's a big thing, believe me, but not that kind of thing. It's not that kind of big thing. It's a psycho big thing. Anyway, we'll get to your comment about that. It's a very, very important comment you brought up there. But hopefully that's done process. There we go. Any second now, it'll start playing because StreamYard's a professional platform.
Yeah,
So-
StreamYard's been like sucking ass lately. So
Yeah, it's been pretty rough. Is my am I breaking out my connection, Shoddy?
hey, no, you're good.
Okay. And holy shit, it's even worse than I thought. What the F is wrong with that guy? Elmo is like the best friend to multiple generations of children. In the Sesame Street universe, Elmo is a child who is currently putting mental health and caring for others in the spotlight. And Larry effing David did that? And I thought it was going to be, and he thought it was going to be funny? What? What an a-hole. What a stupid, self-centered, tone-deaf a-hole. Full disclosure. All the time when I was growing up, my dad would grab me by the shoulders and shake me while he screamed in my face. He choked me more than once. He was always out of control, always in a furious rage, and always terrifying.
Sir, Sir, what does this have to do with Elmo?
I'm a 51-year-old man. And my heart is pounding right now. Recalling how I felt when I was a little boy who loved Grover. The way today's kids love Elmo. Anyway.
Can we get security in here? He's starting to melt down again.
So this appalling, unforgivable, despicable act hits more than one raw nerve for me. And I'm going to say what I wish I'd been able to say when this sort of thing happened to me. Larry David, this was not okay. And your obviously insincere apology clearly communicates that you don't get that. First of all, you aren't even in the segment, but you just decided to barge in and draw focus. Because why? You couldn't stand that a puppet brought people together in a meaningful way that you can't? You couldn't stand your appearance on national television to promote your wildly successful series was delayed for a few seconds while the adults talked about mental health?
Is anyone else getting uncomfortable now? Is it just me?
You wanted to manufacture a viral moment where everyone gets to see what an a-hole you are.
Oh God,
So they'll tune in and watch you portray an a-hole in the last season of your show that celebrates how great it is to be an a-hole without ever experiencing any of the consequences
Is there like a commercial
of being an
we can cut to?
a-hole.
Do we have a commercial? Any?
It keeps going.
It
I
just
really
keeps
want
going,
to know
just
what
keeps
raced
going.
through your tiny little mind and why there was no voice or person who spoke up to stop him from expressing violence toward a children's puppet. Who is there to talk about his love and empathy for people having a tough time? And it mattered and made a difference.
Seriously, where's security? Is he on lunch?
Elmo and his dad were there to talk about empathy, love, and kindness and caring for each other. Larry David was there to promote the final, thank God, maybe he'll go away now, season of his television series. Like, read the room, dickhead. It wasn't about you, the center of attention, you being the center of attention, and understand that what's happening in the moment, F.O., you
Yeah,
F.O.,
officer, he's just been crying now for like 12 minutes and we can't get him to stop.
understand that there are larger things in the world than you and your garbage ego, like puppets talking about mental health.
Mhm.
You know who is watching the Today Show with their parents? Kids who watch Sesame Street. Elmo is an avatar for children all over the world. Children who are too small to understand that Elmo is a puppet will know that a man attacked someone they love for no reason.
Like, officer, I know it's not a crime, but can you still get
And
rid of
Elmo
him?
frightened and confused them. Elmo has inspired a deeply meaningful and important moment of collective support among separate people who have been struggling through traumas and sorry, daily mass shootings, the rise of fascism. Elmo is stopping the rise of fascism? He's red.
I don't know
What?
at this point.
Anyway, it has no reason. It's for fascism.
Trump!
Everything associated with Trump's violence and cruelty. Elmo is fighting Trump, ladies and gentlemen. Elmo.
Trump literally killed people with his bare hands.
Trump literally killed Elmo.
Mhm.
Yeah, literally. And shitty idiot David Larry couldn't even leave it alone. For some reason, he had to indirectly tell everyone who opened their hearts to a Muppet that they were stupid. And then he thought it was a good joke to physically attack and choke this character who's beloved by children and adults alike. It's just you. It's just you, Will.
It's just you. You're
You know what that tells impressionable young people about sharing their feelings? Larry David strikes me as a person who mocks and belittles people who are vulnerable and sensitive and enjoys being cruel because he feels untouchable.
I just want to point out just real quick that this whole diatribe that he's writing here is 20 times longer than the incident itself.
That's correct. That is very correct.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Untouchable. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's who I see whenever I can't find the remote and he's on my television. By contrast, Elmo and the Muppets teach and model to children all over the world that kindness and empathy aren't weak or stupid, or any of the things. Sorry, gagging on his words. Oh man, there's so much soy. I'm actually allergic to soy. If you don't, and really, I'm allergic to soy, and I think I'm having a fucking allergic reaction.
I think my testosterone levels are dramatically dropping right now. I don't know what's
I feel
going
like my
on.
throat is swelling up reading this. I think I'm having a reaction to the soy.
I think I got ED listening to this whole thing.
Yeah, right, man. By contrast, Elmo and the Muppets
Still going.
Elmo and the Muppets teach children to be gentle and kind, to celebrate our different cultures, and to embrace all of our complicated feelings. Elmo and the Muppets offer comfort and friendship and support in a world that is starving for it. I hope that when the dust settles, Larry David's appalling behavior will be a footnote in a larger story about how for just one day, because Elmo never comes on the Today Show ever.
Mhm.
Ever. For just
Sir,
one
this
day,
is
though.
an In-N-Out burger.
For just one day, a Muppet made a difference and helped millions of people who are struggling and to feel less alone. With one question, Elmo got lots and lots of people speaking openly and honestly about their mental. No, it didn't. A non-trivial number of people who none of us will ever know were inspired by it, and that was the last little nudge they needed to make the call or send the email to begin healing. Elmo probably saved lives and relationships by opening that conversation. A
The
man
last
would
Elmo guy
belittle and
literally
mock
molested people, allegedly.
a man would belittle and mock that isn't much of a man at all. Shame on you, Larry David. Yep, so there you go. That's the whole thing right there.
Wow. And then he pressed and send.
Yeah. And there wasn't a voice in his head or in the room that was like, hey man, maybe you better not, do all that. And he did.
I just got a 5-star idea for a video. Somebody should like transcribe that to like a Will Wheaton AI voice and then go through the entire thing and then just play like Eminem Stan in the background while he's like going through it. And I play like the chorus of it too. It's like all of a sudden he's just like having a meltdown about Larry David, and all of a sudden you just hear tea's gone cold, I'm wondering why. God.
Yeah. Leave Elmo alone. That's right. He's saving lives. Elmo is fighting Trump and fascism, and he's saving lives.
Will Wheaton looks like a person who's like suffered from shaking baby syndrome as a 51-year-old man.
Yeah, right. Like I hope that Larry David and Will Wheaton end up on like a show together at some point, and he just like death glares him the entire time. Right? He doesnn even try to pretend to have a good time. He just death glares him the whole time.
Oh my god.
But so Veritas Saturnus says empathy and caring about evil is why we be destroyed as a nation. You cannot tolerate evil like Hollywood and the inversion they push via their banking masters.
Well, you can't fight evil because then there would be no more Hollywood. So you got to pick your battles, boy.
Well, and see, that's just it, is that Will Wheaton has decided to fight Hollywood on behalf of Elmo, the savior of all humanity. And thank
Save
God.
us, Elmo.
So, and also I wanted to bring up that while we were over the weekend, we got this beautiful thing that popped up with Deadpool 3 / Deadpool and Wolverine trailer drop, where we didn't get to see Wolverine.
Yep.
Isn't that neat?
They're saving that for the movie. Yeah, pal.
Right, because we have no idea that Wolverine's going to be in this movie, right, guys? We certainly have not seen every piece of promotional art and every piece of like Hugh Jackman and Brian Reynolds saying Wolverine's in this movie and Deadpool's his buddy. No, we have no idea Wolverine's in it. Not at all.
So what's the draw of this movie outside of the fact that a 6-year-old man is finally going to wear a costume that he probably should have wore about 24 years ago?
Secret Wars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because Deadpool lands on the salt flats of Arizona with a comic book that says Secret Wars on it, and everyone was like, "Oh!" for like the whole rest of the trailer.
He's referencing the Thing. You know the Thing?
Yeah, Yeah, he did the thing. They're gonna do the thing. They did the thing. It's right there on the comic book. Oh, yeah, that was that. And he wore a wig. That was about it. Yeah. But it
Yeah,
was a really
this is
crappy trailer.
this is literally the last hope the MCU has of saving its dying franchise is this movie. Because if this movie sucks shit through a straw, like it's over. Like it's like Vince Carter over. Like there's no recovery from what happens if
Well,
this movie flops.
we've been told that Deadpool and Wolverine, the last scene is the first scene of Secret Wars. So, basically, spoiler alert. And guess what? If this doesn't test well, if it doesn't do well in the theaters, guess what's not going to be in the first scene of Secret Wars?
Mm-hmm. This very thing. Like, isn't that great? It's like we're teasing a movie that ideally is not going to come out until 2027, barring any further delays.
Like Captain America: Brave New World getting yet another reshoot.
Mm-hmm. Or Thunderbolt still not having a cast yet, even though it's supposed to come out next summer, or Blade doing whatever the hell Blade is doing, or hey, how about the next Avengers movie that was supposed to be about Kang the Conqueror until he got arrested for beating a white lady. Now it's just gonna be called Avengers 5.
Yep.
Everything's fine.
Nailed it. But, this is Marvel we're talking about, and that's all they've got now. That's it. They've just got, oh, look who's in the movie this time. Oh, look who's in the movie now. That's all they've got.
It's Disneymon, digital monsters. This is essentially what they're doing here.
It is. You got to collect them all. But speaking of collecting them all, much
all
like
920.
Yeah, all 920. Speaking of collecting them all, specifically mental illnesses, how about this Lisa Frankenstein's, well, I wouldn't say it was a story, this mishap.
Yeah, this is what I like to call a mistake. That this is a cinematic mistake. Now, I'll have to lower my guard here for a second because this is kind of my fault, because I actually had hope that this movie would be fun, because you watched the film trailer for it. I mean, Catherine Newton, who you guys may have seen in a film called like Freaky, she was in the Ant-Man 3 movie not too long ago as Cassie Lang, so she has some sort of style and charisma to her. And then it's like the film looked kind of, interesting and fun. Like it was set in the 1980s, had the 80s aesthetic to it. So, and then of course she had Diablo Cody, who is known for pretty much Juno and literally nothing else. And one thing I've noticed about Diablo Cody too, was she's not working with Jason Reitman. Like all of her films are just absolutely like terrible. It just are. But this is the direction. I know, shocker. It's like only when a man's involved is her stuff actually good. But no, this one was directed by Zelda Williams, who is the daughter of the late comedian Robin Williams, who literally, I'm not even making this up, her only experience as a director was for like some kind of weird LA BDSM short film that came out like a number of years ago. So they decided, oh yeah, well, we saw this, so you'll be perfect to do a feature-length movie. And that's literally what they did. They gave her a feature-length movie and it came out to be this. So the whole point of this movie is that it's a story set in the 1980s here. This is like a character of Lisa Swallows. That's her real name.
Neat.
So hint, wink, wink, get it? So she's a socially outcast, awkward girl who mother was brutally murdered in a home invasion that she was involved in. So now she lives with her dad and her stepsister and her stepmother. And it doesn't seem like anyone actually likes this person, which is why I have the little title on here, I guess, over here, unlikable female protagonist, because this is essentially what Hollywood has created ever since the age of Me Too. It's like, we're going to create a female protagonist that we think is likable, that we think audiences are going to identify with, but in reality, they're absolutely unsufferable and unlikable. The only way you could possibly identify with this person is if you yourself are an awful person who sees yourself in this character. And she's kind of the textbook example of this. So one night after going to a high school party and where she drunk like some kind of like LSD drink, she had a run-in with like some kind of like nerdy guy who thought that she was coming on to him, so he decided that he was going to grab her boob, and then kind of freaked out after realizing that they weren't on the same page on that whole thing. She runs to a graveyard and makes a wish that some Victorian dude comes back to life, or that she can be one with him. So of course, next thing you know, lightning strikes the grave, and a zombie reanimated corpse returns here, and he ends up being her only friend. And this works out for about all of like 12 hours until the zombie murders brutally her stepmother, who she didn't like to begin with. So now we have a body count going here. And the rest of the movie is them killing people and then trying to get away with the fact that they've murdered people. And keep in mind, this film is described as a horror comedy. So we have a Hollywood industry who does not know how to make horror that's actually scary, nor make comedy that's actually funny. So we decided we're going to do both in this movie, and we wonder why nothing worked, because this film is neither scary or funny. This is a film, like I said, teenage humor from a 50-year-old woman. Like, the whole concept here is that bad things happen to people who mildly inconvenience our unlikable protagonist. So the boy who grabbed her boob in the early part of the film, we're gonna just murder him because, well, he deserved it because he grabbed her boob that one scene.
Yep.
Well, they're both drunk and they're both like teenagers and whatnot. So he deserves to die. He deserved his fate. And then we're gonna kill another kid whose sin was that he liked her stepsister more than he liked her. So what they decided to do is that the zombie character just comes out of literally nowhere and then just cuts his dick off with an axe. And then they steal his sawn off dick, put it on him, and then these two have a sex scene later on in the film. And this is what's supposed to constitute as comedy for this horror comedy movie film here. And yeah, I wish I was lying about anything that I was saying there, but I'm not. This is all things that actually happened throughout the movie. Not only is this egregiously bad, it's egregiously boring too. Like, after about 15 minutes, there's nothing interesting about this film. Like, our protagonist is not interesting, the story is not interesting. You're just sitting there, like, after a while, like, on your phone. It's like, why am I even still here in this film? Like, honestly, if I didn't have to review this film for this site, I probably would have walked out a long time ago, because I just simply did not care. And the movie does not get any better throughout any course of this film here. It's just awful writing all around. Like I said, this is Diablo Cody. This is her script, so she's the one in charge of all of the dialogue and the screenwriting of this film, and it's just absolutely abhorrent. So this film has no style, has no soul, and I've said this a few times before, and I've paid for it. But if there are 10 films that come out in 2024 that are worse than this movie, we are in trouble as far as 24 movie goes. This film gets a certified 0 out of 5 for me. This is probably the second worst movie that I've seen so far this year. And then the only one that's worse than that was literally Religious Propaganda. So we're off to a rocky start here in 2024.
Well, and I'm not surprised by that because, again, we're still dealing with the stuff that was either like slowed down during the pandemic or halfway completed or not at all marketed. This is
Yeah.
still stuff that's been sitting on the shelf since then. Stuff that was in production during the pandemic or was like on the table to begin production that now since has been greenlit again to be done to fulfill its whatever. And that's we're still you got to understand Hollywood's a big ship, really big ship. And so when you try to turn that, it's not going to whip around like a sea-doo. It's going to take a very long time to turn that ship around. And I'm not entirely sure it's going to make it. I'm pretty sure it's going to tip over, capsize, and something new is going to take over. I'm in favor of that Vegas thing that Mark Wahlberg and Mel Gibson are working. So
Yeah.
I'm not
I
sure
mean-
Vegas is a good place to put it, but
I mean, there's worse places, I guess. I mean, but this is like where we're at now, because we're in a transition period in Hollywood, whether you like it or not, because like the trusted directors, like the people who actually make films that you trust, okay, this will actually be decent, names like, you know, Quentin Tarantino and Martin Scorsese and Christopher Nolan, it's like those guys are being phased out. It's like they may still have a couple more good films like left in their repertoire, but I mean, those guys are slowly on their way out the door. Like, obviously there's a story we did about Quentin Tarantino. He's in the process of producing his final film right now, The Movie Critic. He's trying to get Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt to work together for the first time in like 30 years, so we'll see how well that goes. But Martin Scorsese just did a film, Killers of the Flower Moon, that's getting Academy Award nomination. So it's like those names, Christopher Nolan, another one, those names of people who you actually trust, be like, oh, okay, this guy's working on this, might actually be good. Those films are only few and far between now. Now we're getting a bunch of films from over the course of the last few years, because all these actors and all these producers be like, you know what, I want to have an inclusion writer with my film, so I want to make sure that there's diversity behind the camera and in front of the camera. So I want to make sure that this female transgender or this person of color who's never written anything in their entire life, and we're gonna put them in charge of the writing of this film. We're gonna put them in charge of the directing of this film, and then we're just producing absolute utter garbage. Like, that's no best way to put it. The two films that are coming out this week, which is Madam Web, which we'll talk about here throughout the course of the week on our later shows, and the Barb Marley movie, both of those movies have 4 screenwriters each. 4 people in charge of the writing for that film each. Here's the thing. If more than 2 people, or honestly, if you can say more than 1 person, but let's say you're a duo, right? Let's say you're like the Russo brothers and you work together. I can give you a pass for that. But if it takes more than 2 people to write a film, your film is toast. Like, it is absolutely toast. There's rare. I can't even think off the top of my head a film that has like 3 or 4 screenwriters that were actually good.
Yeah, even Infinity War had its hiccups with everybody involved with the writing there. It wasn't just solo team. There was still people involved.
Well,
but we do have breaking news, Jacob, about Lisa Frankenstein.
Was that Jean-Claude Van Damme?
It was. Writer Diablo Cody declares Lisa Frankenstein is set in the same world as Jennifer Body. That's right. There you go. Breaking news right here.
She's actually trying to create a cinematic universe.
It's a cinematic universe. You got it. But back to something that was very interesting that I wanted to highlight here. This comes from IdenDrawX over here on X. Says, hello, excuse me. I noticed that Nintendo is also starting to introduce the woke trend, Mario Wonder and the next Princess Peach. I have that right here. Hold on. The next Princess Peach Showtime. It's a video games. Especially the last game, have very unpleasant things. Do you think they continue introducing that trend in Nintendo? I no longer feel like buying those products, and it's a shame because I'm a big fan of everything Nintendo. Well, we haven't got around to starting our show, the Tokyo Happy Hour, Draw X. But however, Japan as a country as a whole, their government is working on passing laws that forbade social commentary from being enforced into manga, anime, video games, music, and other forms of entertainment targeted toward youth. I don't know if Princess Peach Showtime is like strictly protected under this law for youth, but I would suspect that would be the case. From the plot that I read online about this, Princess Peach interacts with the ribbons and a ribbon fairy, the way that the hat from Mario Odyssey functioned. So it gives her different powers when she accesses different ribbons and she goes on a solo adventure. Japanese are usually pretty sly with how they meet the DEI requirements of the US market. So I wouldn't necessarily dismiss Princess Peach Showtime as something that's going to be out and out woke. It'll probably have fingerprints of it because, again, this law hasn't gone into place to prevent the American wokeism or wokeites, if you will, from infecting the Japanese product yet. But it's on its way.
Just a little side note: if you're South Korea, you might want to pass a law like that very, very quickly because there's some things going on over there you might want to pay attention to. But it goes to what we were kind of talking about last week. It's like, with these SJW DUI influencers who are trying to influence the Japanese culture to be what more they want it to be. Clearly they can't change it in the sense of, well, we're just going to force this studio to do exactly what we want to do because they realize after years that doesn't work. So like I said, their new approach is essentially to convince the Japanese market that, hey, you want to make money here in the United States, and this is the type of content that we want now. So they're trying to essentially gaslight Japan into thinking that, okay, I guess people in America want Princess Peach video games now, and nor that the more woke stuff that they're trying to push over there. Their path of doing it now is essentially convincing Japan that no, this is what we want now. So we want you guys to make more stuff like this if you guys want to make more money. And obviously they're going to find out very, very quickly that it's not the case. But it doesn't mean that they're not going to try to get there.
Right. So I just want to show what we're talking about right here. This is what IdenDraw X is talking about. This is the Princess Peach Showtime game that comes out, I think, later this year. Hold on.
Hmm. She's not the
Yeah,
damsel in distress anymore, guys.
right. Well, again, that's the angle they're going with this, but it does seem to be pretty girl centric. They're not, we got the little kung fu business on the corner, but she's also playing with cookies and she's doing the rapier swords girl thing. So,
I
I
was thinking to myself that does scream of like Easy Bake Oven for me, which is kind of a throwback
right.
reference to
It
some of
kind of
you
reminds me of
guys.
Cooking Mama, to be honest. She kind of
Yeah.
it kind of puts me in the mind of Cooking Mama. But again, like these do seem to be like a traditionally feminine style gameplay or visuals anyway. So I wouldn't say it's gone entirely woke. I would say that it's gone entirely woke when Peach has gone Doom Guy, right? When they're
Yeah.
sending Peach into the bowels of hell to purge demons,
When they
Look,
start doing like Peach Furiosa content, it's like, yeah, that's probably where we jump to shark.
we have some good news. I'm not a Bloomberg member. We can only read the first part of this, but as of January 31st, 2024, the Japanese investors are pulling their money out of ESG. That means our good friends at the DEI are going to get booted out of Japan for a lack of money. And the
Hmm.
foreign stocks index have gained in popularity, meaning people are responding positively to Japan ditching ESG. So there's hope.
Good.
It's out there.
Like I said, I think other countries are going to be more likely to like just pull away from it because, like I said, I don't think that what's happening here in the United States is ingrained in some places as well. I'm not saying that it's not ingrained in other places. I'm just saying that some places are more likely to push back against it than our current system here in the United States. So, and maybe that's just the first domino of many to fall. But yeah, this thing definitely going to need to fall one way or another, or we'll just have to realize that this whole industry is pretty much on its death's door because they're basically taking us down with the ship at this point.
Right. And as I said earlier, it would be for the best. But
Hmm.
here we
Yeah,
are.
it's probably for the best. I mean, otherwise we'll just get a whole bunch of Taylor Swift content and we'll just never end. It's just
Swift
unlimited Taylor
flicks.
Swift.
They'll change
Hmm.
Netflix to Swift flicks. It'll just be all Taylor Swift centric sci-fi, romance, horror. It's all Taylor Swift themed. You bet.
Yeah.
On that terrible bombshell, we've arrived at the end of Monday Rewind. Jacob has a show coming up here in just about a half an hour over on his channel.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Bible Lens episode number 30, and tonight we're gonna talk about the idea of celebrities and elites selling their souls to Satan. We all look at it as a conspiracy theory, but there's actually biblical warnings against selling your soul for the world, and there's quite a lot of them. So, is it really a conspiracy, or is it pretty much what's happening in our world today? We'll talk about that, and then, tomorrow we got the Barroom podcast coming up. Some topics we'll talk about there. Then Friday night we're gonna be reviewing two movies, like I said, Madam Web and Bob Marley. We'll talk about those on Friday night. Then of course, hey, me and you will be back here on Wednesday night. Let's not forget the Wednesday show too, right?
That's right, 01, where we shoot a big giant space laser down on stuff that makes us mad. So feel free to
Hmm.
tune in for that.
Unless it's Taylor Swift, because then she just survives it. It was a
We're
whole
we're
thing.
building a bigger laser, okay? We're building a bigger laser. All right, we're working on it. To
We're gonna have
Swift,
to,
you
like,
will fall.
yeah, she's gonna have to get like a Broly punch into the sun if you want to defeat her at this point. It's like-
Well, Henry Throne's already working out, so at least somebody's looking for that kick.
yeah, right.
So, anyway, we'll check you next week. Be sure to watch out there for like pink Godzilla underneath your bed or something. I don't know.